My name's Josh Graves, and I'm from Maryland, and I'm a huge Orioles fan, Ravens fan. I love sports. It was kind of one of the driving things that kind of helped me go through the journey that I went through. I have a lot of friends. I like to hang out with them. I cook in a restaurant, and I'm very passionate about cooking. I play video games. I'm kind of just like the normal dude that just likes to hang out with friends, sports, hang out with his wife, and all that type of stuff. So not too crazy, but I have a crazy story, so I figure I share it. So I would say, honestly, St. Patrick's Day of last year. I woke up. I felt like I had like a fever. I felt out of it. I didn't feel very good. I felt just blah. And I've had them plenty of times. I thought I had COVID for a little bit. I went to work and then I took some medicine. I felt good. A few hours later, I didn't start to feel any better. So that was like a little inclination that I can kind of think about. And around that time, my wife, well, girlfriend at the time, but wife now, she like touched my shoulder and where I had my lymph node at. And she said, "What is that?" And I said, "I have no idea." And honestly, I didn't really think anything of it. It didn't hurt. It didn't cause any pain. But little did I know, like my body was fighting something I didn't know. So I would say that night sweats were ridiculous. Just sweating through my shirt in the middle of the night, waking up drenched. So the sheets were drenched. Random fevers that would get like top out at like 100.4. Wouldn't get any hotter than that. And then it would just like move on. And then my like anemia started for sure. I would be ridiculously cold, uh, cold for really long periods of time. I remember I was playing softball right before I kind of all figured this out because I didn't know what was going on. It was around 55 degrees outside, and I was like frozen solid. And when I got home, I had to like sit in front of a space heater. So, and I was still freezing. So I was like, something's just not right. But I kind of just put it under stress and like I thought I was just anemic. And I recently just bought my girlfriend at the time a wedding ring or engagement ring. So I thought that was just like a lot of stress on me and all that type of stuff. So I just chalked it up as that, as most probably men do because they're scared to kind of face the reality that something's wrong because they think they're all almighty and stuff like that. Like I did, I thought I would be invincible at 26. I didn't think it was cancer. So all those things kind of like boiled up, and then I we were at a party, and I have a few friends that are that were nurses, and they realized that I was like a little yellow. And that was because my bilirubin was so high because my liver was affected by this as well. Um, and then, funny enough, my girlfriend she saw a TikTok of a guy that had a lymph node in his neck, and that kind of like scared her because I had all the symptoms he had, and she brought it to attention to her parents, and she didn't tell me that at the time, but she told me later on that they thought this was lymphoma. So then on Easter, my sister saw me, and she didn't like the look of me, and all that type of stuff. So a few days later, she said she recommended me to come up to her hospital, Hartford Memorial, and gets like blood tests, CT scan, just to make sure like I was all good. And I had like a feeling they knew something was up, but they couldn't tell me until they had a realization. So CT scans showed that I had like a lymph node in my neck, in my chest, and my spleen was enlarged greatly. And the ER doctor at the time said that this was a huge possibility that I had lymphoma. And he didn't specify on Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's because I didn't have a biopsy done. I just had a blood test and a CT scan. So that was about like the start of the journey. Really, it really was. And from that point on, we kind of just hit the ground running and didn't look back. We just made appointments and appointments and had a lot of help on the way there. I know like it sounds crazy now, like thinking about it, but like I just didn't think it was anything. I really didn't. I only didn't think that because it didn't hurt. And the symptoms of lymphoma were so subtle and they weren't like very telling. I mean, I've sweat at night all my whole life. I just get hot at night. I didn't think anything of it. My dog sleeps right next to me. He's like a furnace. So I just thought like it was nothing out of the ordinary. Stress. I'm a I don't know. It's just always stress. Another thing I forgot to mention, I had a lymph node pushing on my trachea. So anytime I did like exertion of any sort, I would have to like take a step back. I honestly thought like I was developing asthma or something. I just making excuses after excuses. Like I cook in a restaurant, so make me cutting carrots like was a difficult situation. Like I would have to like catch myself like I'm like something's just not up. Something's just not right. So that was definitely like the sign that just like something isn't, and it's not getting any better. So like you knew something was up. So like when I was fully diagnosed, like May 5th, I kind of had like an inclination this was a possibility. Like I wasn't shocked. But back to like when I first was told, my first questions were like, I have cancer. Like I did like that was it. Like I didn't think anything of it other than just like holy hell. Sorry for my language, but and then I saw like my girlfriend at the time, like she put her head in her hands and started crying. And I thought to myself, that can't happen again. So I just like try to be strong and make sure that she never felt like that. And it's a crazy story because my sister was my nurse too. And when she got in the room, I knew something was up. Like there's no reason why she would walk in the room with the ER doctor, and like just the tone of her face, it spoke 1,000 words. I kind of knew something was up. And I was like, all right, what's next? Like, what do we do next? Like, I can't just sit here. I don't have a choice. I'm 26. I have to get started. So what's next? Like, it's gonna be a real crazy journey, but I just like, what do we do next? So, like I said, after that, honestly, the day after, we just hit up all these different oncologists, and I'm very thankful that my in-laws work for Mercy Hospital in Maryland, and they helped me tremendously, getting me in the right places and the right doctors, and meeting my biopsy, the doctor that did my biopsy, not even a week later, kind of figuring out that this was a possibility. And then on May 5th, I met with my oncologist, and he told me that I had nodular sclerosis, Hodgkin lymphoma. And then after that, just a series of tests, scans kind of followed. And yeah, I didn't really have time to process anything. I kind of just went for it. And I don't think really anybody does have time until it's like over, because everything's just moving so fast, and you really only have one job, is just to survive and just hope that every single chemo treatment goes well and you don't have any complications. So you just put your foot forward and you just put your head down and you just get to work. Really, that's all I thought about. And like nothing mattered other than just trying to get healthy. I was like, I had like a biopsy, or the PET scan just determined I was stage 4. And my doctor, it was everywhere really. Like my chest, my stomach, my neck, my liver, my spleen. It was in my bone marrow, so it was in a lot of places. So I had to start pretty quickly after they got the PET scan results, because I didn't even was able to like freeze my sperm, because that was something they really wanted to do, because chemo really destroys your sperm, and like it just will take a long time, and I didn't even have time to do that. So like I got the results on a Tuesday, and Thursday I was in chemo. So my regimen was AAVD. I know a lot of people get ABVD, but I guess my lungs weren't affected by anything. So my oncologist didn't feel like bleomycin was necessary. I know a lot of people would tend to drop that halfway through after the PET scan. But yeah, I had the Red Devil, which was the worst thing ever. I think I hear like about it, and like I did some research and had no idea what was to come of it. That's why I'm still a little bald, but all my hair is starting to come back. So May 19th was the first day of my treatment, and it was scary. You're going into a chemo ward, and I was the youngest person in there by 50 years. Like, not like there's not many people my age that probably are diagnosed with cancer, and you don't really know where to begin when you walk in there. You have your oncology nurse, you get your blood tested, and then you got to wait a few hours, and they hit you with a bunch of different drugs and medicine like that. So like you just don't really know what to expect. You really don't. And I didn't really have anyone to talk to going into this, because I don't really know anyone that had cancer, let alone Hodgkin's lymphoma. So because all different cancers and treatments are different. So I really didn't know what to do. So the second I got there, I was kind of bombarded by my nurse practitioner, my oncology nurse, and just like a social worker that just kind of helped me and my wife kind of get through things. Um, But yeah, it was crazy. It went great. Like the first treatment was phenomenal. That was kind of like the telltale sign that like things were going to look up because they tested my blood every single time I went, and they made sure I came back the next day just to make sure I didn't develop anything else, and wanted to check like my iron levels and all that stuff because I was white as a ghost when I left the first treatment because it just destroyed me. So I kind of had like a good feeling that everything was going to work out like pretty early because I saw like my blood kind of already like balancing out. Like there's LDH tests that kind of determines to see how chemo is working. And like it was so incredibly high. And then it was basically cut in half after the first two treatments. So I was very fortunate, like to kind of have like very quick results fast. And it just helped me power through for the rest of the time. So side effects, I would say early on weren't terrible. I definitely was nauseous when I got a few days after. I was also given a Neulasta shot that would improve my white blood cells, which was insane, like bone pain. But I was given actually Claritin to help with bone pain. I don't know. People look at me like I have three heads. Like allergy medicine helps with bone pain. Yeah, it does. I have no idea why. And I don't think anyone really questions it, so they just kind of do it. Um, and that like it just helped me very very well. And I would honestly say medical marijuana in my state is legal, and I use that a lot to help with some of the pain and nausea. It will help me eat because I did drop a lot of weight, around like 30 or 40 pounds. So it would just like at least I just nibble on some stuff, drink some water. Back to the chemo part, like I would say I was nauseous, tired, nothing like really crazy, like outside what you hear from chemo, at least in the beginning. And then I kind of developed like neuropathy, and I didn't kind of, I definitely developed neuropathy in my fingers and toes. So like my toes and my hands, I still deal with that. But if there's one trade off, I guess I'll deal with a little bit of tingling. So like, and then I lost my hair after the second treatment. Honestly, like I was leaving the parking garage and like I could push my like I rubbed my hand around across my face and like I was already losing facial hair. So it was that quick. Just like very tired, very bleh. And towards the end was really, really difficult. Like even picking my head up was hard. I couldn't like get out of bed sometimes. I never wanted to do anything. Your just energy levels were low from chemotherapy. I don't think I repeated. I think it was maybe self-induced. Maybe like constipation would be the worst thing I can really remember I kind of went through. But other than that, I was very fortunate in the beginning, and like I said, towards the end, it was very difficult to almost do anything. In bed by 8 o'clock. My wife would help me up and down the stairs. She would bathe me and clothe me, and it would take me like minutes to get changed. I remember there was a time I was taking a walk and I like saw my house and I just stood there for 10 minutes because I couldn't walk anymore. I was like, I don't care. I'll sit right here. I don't care. I just don't have the energy to move or do anything. So I just kind of sat there on the curb. And when I got the energy, I moved on. And yeah, so chemo brain is for sure a thing. It's just cloudiness. I remember one of the very first moments I remember like having like chemo brains. Like my buddy was over with his girlfriend, and we were eating dinner, and we were talking, and I looked right at him, and I couldn't think of his name, and I've said his name a million times, and it's like I know who you are, but I just can't say your name. And I would say just like the fogginess of chemo brain, and just like being able to like remember things and process things a lot quicker than or slower than people makes you emotional, and makes you upset, it makes you mean, it makes you happy, it just messes with everything. So your feelings are just out of whack. So like having someone around to kind of validate and try to like settle you down for sure. Yeah, like chemo brain doesn't only affect like your comprehension, but it also messes with your emotions for sure. And like you could be running hot one day, you could be really sad one day, you could be really happy one day. I had a lot of help to say the least. I had so much help. Like everyone was willing to do anything for me, and I'm forever grateful for that. I would say I just like oh my god, like I would never feel bad for like missing out on things. Like it is what it is. Like I'm going through like the worst time of my life. Everyone was understandable. Um that was very helpful. Like I never felt pressure to do anything I didn't want to or could do. Um but it's funny, like my buddy, one of my best friends, I was in his wedding, and it was a day after one of my last chemo treatments, and all my friends did everything they could do for me. And I think I sent a picture to you guys of them like basically putting a tie on me, and it was a beautiful picture that they caught, and I just was forever grateful for that. And I had a lot of help. I was told this was a very curable disease off the get go. I was already like that was embedded in my mind. I know unfortunately a lot of different cancers. I'm not like Hodgkin's lymphoma is a blood cancer, so the best advice I was given, or the best explanation I was given, was my my oncology nurse. She was telling me how when the chemo is injected right in my port, it goes right in my bloodstream and basically hits the cancer cells head on, and kind of just like and eliminates them almost immediately. And Hodgkin's is very curable. Unfortunately, there's not a lot like this. Like the percentage rates are very high, even like stage four. Like my oncologist was like stage four Hodgkin's isn't stage four lung cancer. Like it's just not even comparable. So I had that mindset that it was very curable off the get go. So I was like ready to fight immediately with all the confidence in me. So like when I started to see it started to work, you know, you loosen up, but you keep your gates up because you just don't know what could happen. Like you never know, like you come refractory towards it, it could stop working. It couldn't get into a certain spot. Like I said, it was in a lot of spaces, but it didn't have to travel far to get to those spots. So I was very fortunate for that. I think it just fueled me just to like finish this out. Like 12 rounds was awful. It was every 2 weeks, but like I knew at the end of the tunnel, it was going to be worth it. Like I knew this was going to be worth it. I knew everything I worked for was going to be worth it. And I just wanted to get back to what I was doing before I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's. And I just wanted to keep fighting. And I read stories on success stories. Like I said, like this is why I wanted to do this. I would read the patient story and I would see these amazing stories of these people. And then like after I found out I was 4B, I kind of like just read the stage fours because I couldn't really relate to stage twos because it was a different spot. And I didn't know anything really. I didn't know anything with Hodgkin's. So I just kind of like, and like I was pretty far behind everyone else. So I was like, okay, how crazy is this going to be? And like I said, like, treatments worked, and by August I was in remission. They just couldn't tell me that because God forbid something happened and it came back like as I was getting treatment or something like that. So I just had to keep going, and I didn't have any metabolic activity in my body. So telling everyone that was awesome. Like they were so happy, and it was cool. So I was I was ecstatic to find out that it was working, but like I always knew like you can't stop. Like you got to keep going. You got to like put your head down and just finish. Like finish strong. Like don't just keep doing what you're doing. Like I did everything right. My wife made sure I was drinking water, eating what I had to. Just like you can't get lackadaisical because it will take you. It will take you. I'm in the process of like getting scanned every few months now for the first year, the next 2 years, and 3 5 years. I have a scan coming up in a month, and my oncologist was telling me, hey, just don't live around the scan. Just live your life, do what you need to do, and then figure that out when that day comes because there's nothing you can do. Even if there was anything, there's still a lot of different tests that you have to go through. For sure, like having an oncology appointment is scary, no matter when it is and when it's about. But I've been very fortunate to have like some of the best doctors ever, and Maryland's known to have great doctors. We have great hospitals here, so they've always kept me very tamed and like very educated on everything. So I don't. I definitely will have anxiety. Like I know it's gonna come like a week before. Like I know it's gonna happen. Um, so I try to take like just Ativan really help just calm me down, like just like stop me from racing. To just have the thoughts racing, just be able to like kind of like comprehend everything. Okay, this is what you gotta do. You're gonna do it. And just like you can't help anything. You just gotta be there.
Well, thank you so much for you sharing that. And going back to, what was that moment being able to tell your family and friends you were in remission?
Oh, it was euphoric. Like it was better to tell them than me being told, for sure. Um I I got a scan on Wednesday, and the next day, because it takes a few days for radiologist to read it, they told like I was on the phone with, and I put it on speaker. My wife was in the room, and she started crying, And I started crying, and then I just told everybody. And then everyone just, I guess I would assume I just more texted everybody, and I called like my dad and my mom, and they were happy. They were ecstatic. They were so happy for me. And my father, he just didn't. He just wanted a good scan. He didn't think it was going to be the greatest scan, and he was excited, and he calls me his hero and stuff like that. So just like hearing those things of how I inspire people, it's really nice to hear because I wouldn't be able to do those things without them. And I always make it like a point of emphasis that like I'm happy for them. Like I'm more happy for them. And I always think to myself, this is way bigger than me. Like this was always bigger than me. This is about everyone that I've like affected in my life and I've reached and touched. And I realize like this is for them too. Like this isn't just for me. Like it is what it is for me. I've kind of just accepted it. Like I had cancer. If it takes me, it takes me. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like that's just the kind of mindset you have to have. But for those people, they wanted me here, and they didn't. I didn't. They didn't have another decision. Like it was here, me or not. So, me telling them they couldn't have been happier. Just everything like worked out. Like it worked out like it should have. So, and then like when I got the final call in November that I was in remission, like everyone was so happy. And then just been kind of like going through the thick of things of how getting back into like life and just like looking back on it, just having all the help from those people, you just know how sincere it was.
Did it break?
That's right.
I would say I'm shocked myself because from where I was back in October when I finished, I would never think I am here now in February, working 5 days a week, exercising and kind of doing what I was doing before. I feel healthy. I feel great. I don't have much setbacks. My energy levels are pretty good for the most part. I would say, because I just think about like I couldn't when I first started to get back to work, I couldn't really finish a shift, and like I work in a restaurant, so I'm on my feet very very often. But now I'm like ready to go. I feel great. I always tend to like not I try to live in the moment because I know the next day might be a little bit more tiring because that's how I felt when I was going through treatment. I wouldn't get tired doing a task. It would be the next day. I would be like, wow, I'm just exhausted. So, and I kind of just look at that and I'm feeling pretty good. I would say have your support system on standby at all times. There's no way I could have done this by myself. Be educated, ask questions, make sure somebody is there with you during oncology patient or appointments because there's so many things flying at you, you don't even know what's going on, and you just like kind of take bits and pieces of what your oncologist said, and it's not like you're gonna forget. You're gonna be very forgetful. Like chemo brain's a huge thing. Is another thing I struggle with. Like just maybe counting or reading things in like large portions is difficult for me. Trying to comprehend stuff. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So like having people like around you to like help you process things at like appointments and stuff. Have have an outlet. Try to find a support group for sure. I was part of a support group via Facebook and in like real life, just like to talk about things because one thing I've really realized it's hard for people to even like talk about that haven't gone through this. It's like you can't like relate, you can't like get to their level, they won't get to your level, and then you go through like this thing during chemo, like you just turn into a different person. You're not happy, you're not joyful, you're kind of mean, you're kind of an SOB. So like it is what it is, and you're just trying to find an outlet. You want someone to say something that you want to hear, but you know it's just not what it's sincere enough. So I think reaching out to people for sure that try to find your space, like really try to find your space, and they will like validate your feelings. I was part of a support group for people that unfortunately lost people, and I was one of the like young, obvious again the youngest person in this little support group. Then they helped me. They let me validate my feelings, and they were like, "This is all normal." It was headed by an oncology nurse, and she kind of said, "Yeah, this is normal." I didn't know like after treatment, like, did you have to wait a month for your final results? Because I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense now, but there's nothing in this world that will prepare you for this. But just take every day at a time, just one day at a time, I would definitely say is the process is still going on, like, just thinking about, like, "Man, I had cancer?" Like, that's crazy. I'm a pretty, like, even keel, like, happy-go-lucky person. I mean, I feel like that part of me I'm not that person. I'm not, like, a cancer or oncology patient, like, first. I'm Josh Gray's, that's who I am. So it's just something I went through. I don't characterize myself as that. This time around, like this year, I would say like this is when I started to feel sick. So for sure, like those moments in my life kind of come back. But like I said, that's not me. I mean, I just went through a really tough thing, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing that they're not that. I don't think they want to be remembered as that. I don't want to speak for other people, but me personally, I'm just me, and I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And I think just taking a step back and be like, wow, that happened is kind of crazy. But at the same time, I see the relationships I've made with people throughout that process. And it kind of like helps me process. Like if I never was diagnosed with cancer, I don't think I would have the relationships I have with people. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't wish I ever had it, but the silver lining in all of it is like the relationship and the trust I have with people is I can't like there's nothing else that I can get from that. And then the bond with I have my wife now. We had to get married. Well, we were going to get engaged very prior to that, and I don't have the best insurance, so we had to get married. So like pretty quickly. So like that would never happen that quickly, and my bond with her is something that will never be matched by anyone in this world forever. So just like when I think about like processing, I think of all of like the good things that came of it instead of like the bad things.